But John, at the very beginning, I would like to introduce you to my son. This is my son, Mike, that knows military records. This is John, that needs some help with military records.
Nice to meet you.
I've got a lot of that information about who he is. I've got his name and his birth date and all that. I will send that to you tonight. And we found his records in Fold 3 a long time ago at the Family History Center, and I never copied it. But we got as far as he was shot down over Austria in 1945, I think. And they have the interview records of his personal story of when he got shot down, and then the whole crew was captured on the ground and then taken to a prisoner of war camp, but they can't find where they took him. So
okay, well, we'll see what we can find.
yeah, I'll send that to you later tonight. I'll
Okay.
send it to Nancy. Appreciate you and glad to see you're well.
Well, thank you. It's good to be well. 2 years ago, I wasn't too well, so I'm glad I am.
Yeah.
Yes, we are glad to have him well again. And for those of you that didn't know this, my son is a retired Army military, and he's worked a lot with a friend who's an expert on recreating and finding military records. So that's why I've been trying to connect he and John to see if Mike could help John with his relative. Okay, so we don't have a lot of people here tonight. I do not know. I kind of know John's research experience in angels. Jeannie, have you done a lot of research? Jeannie, why don't you unmute and answer my question? I'm going to ask everybody questions for the first few minutes. We changed rooms. We usually have been using our computers at the dining room table, but the dining room table right now is being complicated a little bit by the commercials on the television. Some people are watching the commercials on television.
Yeah, sure, you're watching the commercials.
Okay, so Jeannie, what research have you done?
Well, I haven't done a lot. I started sitting at my grandmother's table when I was a little, I was 10 maybe, and she was showing me genealogy and sending off to England for things. And I've maintained an interest over many years, but I kind of tied up in the world of work when technology took over, and I'm way behind in that. And I'm just hoping to learn a few things.
Okay. My experience with that was I would get kind of caught up on technology, and then I would be called to Relief Society. And then I'd be released from Relief Society, and I'd almost be caught up with technology, and I would be called to primary. And then I would be almost caught up on technology, and I'd be called to Relief Society. And so I understand what that's like to be learning new technology without school or something to help me learn it. Vanessa, what's your experience with research? You can unmute yourself to answer.
Hi. Yeah, I have not done a lot of research recently, but because I had some relatives that just passed away from COVID, that has opened more branches of family history that we could do for my mom's side of the family. And she's been trying to see how far she could go in some of the extended lines from that.
Good, good. It's a shame that it takes sadness to bring blessings sometimes.
Yeah, it's really hard, but it's just part of life too, and it helps me to be able to deal with my pain better, to feel their names in family search and see their pictures, and it helps.
I think that John has felt the same thing. Probably at different times, all of us have. I remember one time when I made a big breakthrough in research, and I had been at the Stake Family History Center, and on my way home, I just wanted so badly to share it with my mother. So I understand those feelings. Ethan and Grace, what research have you done? Can you unmute and answer?
Yeah, so we've done a little bit with Family Search, just with our families in the past. And then I've done a little as a missionary with new people who have joined the church and have taken names to the temple. But we're not terribly knowledgeable with it. It's been a while, I think, since we've gotten into that or done any work for our own families.
Okay. So you'll benefit from the very beginning things we talk about tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody is just called iPhone. Whoever that is, could you unmute and tell us what research you've done? So I kind of have an idea of the things to concentrate more on in my class.
Okay, so I have been doing research into England, Scotland, Ireland, and Germany.
And not in recent years. You're talking about a couple of centuries ago.
Yes,
Okay.
my great-great-grandfather.
And so that is completely different from my experience. I know a little bit about it, but it is definitely not my area of expertise. Okay. Alice,
Hi.
do you want to take a minute and unmute and tell us where you are in research?
Let's see here.
Well, you're still muted for one thing, Alice. Can you unmute?
Now I'm unmuted.
Now you're ready. Now you're ready.
Right now I need to figure out, I've seen where I want to do a little research on the ship Swan and Mayflower and the people that came over onto those two ships, and a little bit about what the colonies that they went to were like. And I want to also find someplace on Family Search where it's written down how we're related to Pocahontas.
Okay.
And I can't remember.
That's definitely colonial research.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's where
I think it's on your husband's side.
It is definitely on my husband's side. As you
Alice's
well know.
husband's ancestor was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Okay, Ethan and Grace, can you unmute and tell us a little bit about what you've done in research?
They just did.
Okay. All right. Tonight, our topic is
I
what?
forgot Angel.
Oh, Angel, I assumed I knew. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your research?
Well, lately I have not been researching. Yesterday, my mom and I realized that my brother didn't have a life sketch.
Oh.
So we did his life sketch yesterday. And last week we did her grandfather, Harrison Snow's life sketch. And now we're working on her grandmother's life sketch. So I'm just concentrating on, my mother is very ill. She has, every day is a blessing that we get her because her heart's just bad. And so I'm just trying to gather all the information I have that is with her. And the research is on hold. So,
However, you have a son that actively researches.
Ian, I don't think
Uh-huh.
he's been researching. I think he's been more doing what 25-year-olds do.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but trying to find a job, trying to find a wife, trying to get out of his mother's house. You know, what am I going to do with my life? So yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks to me like one of the things that I lost in moving the computer to the other room was a very basic list. I'm just going to see if I can pull it up. of what records are. We're talking tonight about using Family Search to research. And I found it, yay. So I'm gonna go ahead and share screen, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this. What we're trying to do when we do family search research, when we do research about our families, is we try to find records or sources that tell us about that ancestor and give us clues about that ancestor's relatives. And so there are some major sources and principles that we follow as we look for these records. The first thing we do is we work from the known to the unknown. So we're going to ask our mother, help me write the life sketch. Or maybe mother asks us, help us write a life sketch. Help us take family pictures and get them posted on Family Search, and have me help you figure out who the people are, because I'm going to know and you won't know, and if I don't tell you, they might not get recorded. But we always start with what we already know, and then we move using that information to what we don't know. We also should try to find others that are researching the same family. So Angel is talking to her mother. When I see something on Family Search, I often will send somebody an email message. If they've added something or changed something, you can get their email address and write them an email and say, this is my ancestor too, let's cooperate. And so that is a very important principle, especially in the early days of research. Now, so I'm going to briefly talk about these 9 sources that are sort of the basic sources that we look for family history. We look for sources that are in our home and personal sources. These are going to include letters, books of remembrances, pictures, heirlooms, family Bible. And they're going to include vital records such as birth, marriage, death, and divorce, and adoption. You know, I show up in my marriage record, but I also show up in a death record because my daughter died. So I am on her death certificate. Church records. Church records in some communities and cultures are very important. In the LDS Church, they're very important for our LDS relatives. For people that lived in Europe, they're just about important for everybody because usually there was a state church. And so all births, marriages, and deaths were listed in the church, state church records. An example of that, of course, is England. Land records are important, particularly in the United States. We can find out a lot about who family is by who did they buy the land from, who did they sell the land to, and often in a deed it will say where they moved from if they just recently moved to a new area of town. So land records are very important. Military records, particularly pensions, discharge records, service records, and draft cards. And this applies particularly if they're in time periods where there were wars. The census records in the United States were every 10 years, not quite so often for Navajos. They are also in the British Isles, only they're not on the even years. Ours are in every 10 years with numbers ending in 0. In England, it's numbers ending in 1. Wills, probates, and guardianship records are very important. Wills are especially important in the colonial America and the early days of the United States in the colonies, area of the colonies, whereas maybe they wouldn't have other records that would list the children. Immigration and emigration. Immigration is when you move in, emigration is when you move out. For people who came into the United States, we usually think of Ellis Island, but before people came to Ellis Island, they came through Castle Garden. Most of our LDS ancestors came through Castle Garden. Ship records, are important. Now, the ships that Alice is talking about are way before Ellis Island times. But they're still very interesting records about ships. And then when people applied to be citizens in the United States, they listed their immigrations. Then I have down miscellaneous. I should also have other court records. Court records are very helpful, sometimes in just giving us a feel about what went on in our ancestors' lives. An example of that is I have an ancestor whose name was Little Barry Weaver. Now, why in the world would somebody have the name of Little Barry? But once when I was looking in court records to see if I could find any land records or other records about him, I found out that there were dozens of people in his community named Little Barry. So then that didn't seem like such an unusual thing. There are also books, whether they're county histories or a book that somebody wrote about their ancestors, or in Alice's case, she maybe is going to need to do research in books about early colonies in Massachusetts to help her find out more about Pocahontas and how she connects there. But these major record sources are the sources we're going to look in. And so we need to know a little bit about what the sources are that we're looking for when we go to Family Search to start looking. And so my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, whoops, that didn't work. I'm going to go to Family Search. There, that worked. And I want to point out, as I've told some of you before, Family Search is divided into two main things. They're divided into the family tree, and they're divided into the searchable records. There's also memories and indexing and activities. But basically, Family Search is divided into family trees and searching. And searching means access to the family history library and the records that are in the family history library. Now, if we click on search and then go to records, because today we're talking mostly about searching in records, then this is the screen that we get. Now, we need to know that there are two basic, now I'm going to go back to tree. There are two main kinds of records that we're going to be searching in. We're going to be searching in records that have been indexed, and therefore they're easier to find because you can do a computer search for the person's information. The second thing we're going to be looking in is records that have not been indexed, and they take more work. Charles, can you please turn my phone volume down? So if we go to family tree, and that's, okay. When I pull up my family tree, I pull up, generally speaking, in landscape. But if I'm going to be searching records, I would rather go to fan chart, because there's going to be two sections on fan chart that are very helpful to me. The first one is ordinances. If I click on ordinances, I am going to see on my fan chart who has ordinances that are needed. And anybody who has a yellow background or a green background or a dark blue background needs ordinances. And if they are all white, then those ordinances have already been performed for those people. Now, if they're totally gray, it means I haven't even found out who they are yet. Now, of course, each of these people is going to have siblings and descendants that might not have had their temple work done. But if they're white, they themselves have their record done.
And orange?
Okay, I'm calling it yellow, but it's orange.
Oh.
Yeah. So Little Barry Weaver has something, an ordinance that hasn't been done. And when I looked at it today, it looks to me like somebody has added another wife for him that is a duplicate of his first wife. So that has been done, but I'm going to have to research that on a day when everybody's not busy watching commercials.
What's the
Then
score anyway?
here, what?
What's the score now anyway?
I don't know, but Kansas City's losing, which is going to make my children, my daughter and family that live in Kansas City very sad. Now, if I click on Research Helps, then I'm going to see more clues. Now, anything that is purple is going to mean that the computers have been programmed to look at indexed records that Family Search, through members of the church in indexing and non-members of the church through indexing, have indexed. And the computer has the brains through algorithms to look at those records, and they'll find a place where my ancestor is listed, and or somebody who might be my ancestor is listed. And so those are called hints. On Ancestry, they're called leafs. But so if I click on any of these people and look at them and pull up Family Search, it is going to tell me, for example, here on Samuel Neal, that the algorithms are suggesting that Samuel Neal is listed in an Ohio County marriage record. Now I might want to look at that. So what I am suggesting is that the indexed records, and specifically when we have hints, is what I would call low-lying fruits. They are things that we can do kind of helter-skelter with no big plan. We can find out information about our ancestors and connect it to our ancestors so that when we're ready to seriously research that person, we have that help. Or if I was seriously researching Samuel Neal, then I would have that help about him. So I could look up any of my ancestors and see if they had a blue hint. Or I can just go through and click on blue hints and spend an hour or two clicking on blue hints. And by looking at the person's family group sheet and of his person page on Family Search, I can analyze whether or not that is my ancestor. And if it is my ancestor, then I can connect that record through that hint, and then it will be listed as a source on Family Search. Then when I or someone else seriously searches on Samuel Neal, we will have one additional search to begin, one additional source to use as help when we begin our search. So a way to find low-lying fruit would be to go to this chart in my tree and look for these blue hints and see what they are. And so that is a very good thing to do when we are just getting started. Now, another way that I can get low-lying fruit help is, let's go to Lorenzo Dalwade. I have not done this in advance, but let me look and see. Okay, it says that he's listed in Illinois marriages. Well, I bet, sometimes there might be one copy of marriage records, more than one copy that are indexed, because I bet if we look under sources, I bet we've already got marriage records. So we're not going to take too much time to look. Oh, but he was married 3 times. My bet is that he is already listed in Illinois marriage records at least 3 times, and I'm right about that. But that is something that I could look at and make sure that he, in fact, that this marriage record lists him in all cases. Now this says he has a possible missing child. That means that the computer has said, gee, there's a big gap between children. Maybe some are missing. Well, maybe the big gap was between wives, or maybe it was a wife who had a big gap in children. But that is a way to find things. Let's click on this source, and I'm going to click on review and attach, and it's going to tell me things, because sometimes this gives you, and I haven't figured out exactly when, Sometimes it gives you another little screen over here which says similar historical records, and it did not in this case. So we won't follow that through. But look here, it's got a list of different other genealogy companies who collect family trees and family records and index them, and they are going to very likely to have indexed different records than Family Search has. Now, Family Search has their list of priorities of who they want to index first, and so censuses were among the ones they wanted to index first. Births, marriages, they wanted to index first. They especially draft records. Those they've indexed quickly. So those are the ones that are going to already be indexed. But there are millions of other records that Family Search just hasn't gotten around to yet. They are just starting to. And so as they do land records, and more land records are indexed, showing up here under research help. But for now, let's click on Ancestry and see what we find on Ancestry. And we are going to find out if Lorenzo Dow Wade made very good. If we got through, it would be a very good help, because it would list Lorenzo Dow Wade on Ancestry, a beginning search for Lorenzo Dow Wade. It would start with other people that have submitted him on a variety of records about him. And here we are, this time it worked. So immediately it pulled up that he shows up in Illinois marriage records where he married Catherine Ann Van Dyke. It shows up that he shows up Lorenzo Dow Wade, who was born in 1810 in Kentucky, and later lived in Schuyler County, Illinois. So that could be my Lorenzo Dow Wade. I didn't know he ever lived in Schuyler County. I'd have to, oh yeah, well, he lived in Johnson County, which is in Illinois. Another marriage record to Catherine Ann Van Dyke, in the 1850 census, he's in Iowa. In the, if this is him, but all of these see are low-lying fruits where the Ancestry computer, having connected through Family Search, found Lorenzo Dow this quickly. And as I am looking through these, I am suspecting, now see, here's a land record that's already been indexed. And as I'm looking through these with what I already know about Lorenzo Dow Wade, I think that these are pretty much him. Not this one. Not, and that's a Lorenzo White. But now this is low-lying fruit. I can look up each one of these records, and here is Lorenzo Dow Wade in that's a White. That didn't mean to click on that one. 1840 census of Jasper, Illinois. Now I can view that image. Then I can attach that record to my Ancestry account that lists Lorenzo Dow Wade. And then I can transfer that source over to Family Search. And I now have that about him in Family Search. Now, I already probably have the census in Family Search on him, but I should check and make sure. Here's where he purchased land in 1838. That might be when he first moved to Illinois, or it might be that he purchased land in Iowa, in Indiana, before he moved to Illinois. So I need to consider this just as seriously as I would a blue hen.
Okay, be gentle. Remember, it's mommy's here.
I
I just heard somebody talking and it distracted me just a minute.
Let me show you.
But each of these I should give the same each one that's a Wade, I should give the same seriousness to that I would give a blue hint in Family Search. So by using Ancestry and Family Search together, I have here a dozen things to look up to find out more about Lorenzo Dow Wade. And that was so easy to do because I didn't even have to go to Ancestry and look him up. I just came to where it says Ancestry on his Family Search page. I can also do the same for Find My Past. And it says it's going to go to a different source. And now you see each of these sources that are listed are partner sites with Family Search, which you can get a free membership to if you're a member of the church. And this is why we talked about it in one lesson, and we can talk about it in another lesson, about what the partner sites are and why we want to join the partner sites. Find My Past is a partner site that deals mostly with the British Isles. My Heritage partner site is based in Israel, but they have, mostly because they're partnered with the church, they have a worldwide people from the whole world submitting things to My Heritage. And My Heritage's strength is their algorithms that help you connect. If they tell you that they think somebody is yours, they're right 97% of the time, and that's pretty high. Then I understand that this site is very strong in South and Latin America, and I don't know anything about this one. I'm going to have to study about that one. But how quickly it is to go to the partner sites and see what low-lying fruit it has for me. I do not know who Raymond Weber is, but I can tell by that Hiram Wade is his siblings, is in fact Lorenzo Dow's brother. So this guy is a relative of mine. So if I click on his name, I very likely will be able to get his email address and write him a letter. The same with this one. The same with this one. And so I can go down through so quickly to all of this low-lying fruit. Now, so My Heritage's strength is family trees, not additional records. Ancestry's strengths are both family trees and additional records, and the ability to connect those other records to Family Search and the other family trees to Family Search. Now, sometimes as we are looking at records for some of these people, it is going to give us, and especially if we're attaching them, it is going to give us this option that is going to tell us that other historical records that might have him. It's easier to find in Ancestry than it is in Family Search, but I think they're trying to improve that. Now, here again are, I guess that maybe on this, and it's an example mostly of research that I have done. The ones that I practiced with today weren't examples of who I had done. Joanna is Mike's daughter. So those are all in family records. But you see how I could click on my name and I could find my email address, or I could just, usually it gives me the option of sending a message to Family Search, which Family Search will forward to them. Not everybody wants to receive emails from everybody. And so they in their settings, when they set up their contact settings, when they set up their account, they didn't say, they said, no, you can't have everybody have my email. but then I could send it to Family Search and Family Search would send it to that person. So that is where I said that one of the things that we want to be able to do is make contact with other people who are researching this line. And if there were other people here, I would certainly want to find them, because Lorenzo Dalwade is one of the families that I have researched the most. And definitely it was a brick wall when I found him. I was able to break through that brick wall. Now, so that's the basics, I think, of low-lying fruit. So we are going to find low-lying fruit when we go to Family Search. I guess we have to go to the top of the page. We're going to find low-lying fruit when we go first to the fan chart and look for hints. And then if we go to a person and look for hints, and then if we connect from that person to our partner site. Now, sometimes we're to the point where we are past low-lying fruit. And when we get to the point where we're past low-lying fruit, then we're going to go to search. And first, we're going to want to do indexed records. So when we go to indexed records, we have two options. One is to just use, this is called a template. All of this kind of a form that you fill out is called a template. And so if I were to fill out, let's see, what names have we used tonight? Do any of you have a name you would like to use? If any of you have an ancestor you'd like me to kind of search with, unmute yourself and tell me who it is. Okay, don't have any takers yet. If you change your mind, let me know. But so let's look up, one I was looking up today was David, Hugh, Michael. And I'm afraid that I didn't make a record of his birth date. Darn it. But I do know that he was born in North Carolina. And I do know who his father is. His father is Christian Michael. Now you notice I spelled it differently. Christian Michael was the first person in the Michael family who sometimes used the spelling M-I-K-E-L and sometimes used the spelling M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Now, if I just do a search and don't tell them anything else about him, let's see what we find. David Michael, whose father is David Michael, that's not him. I at the top of the list, I'm not finding him. Now I am finding other things of interest. I am finding his mother. No, I'm finding another ancestor whose name is Charity Michael, who has a son named David. The Michael family tended to all name their children the same names. Everybody has a John. Most people have a George. Most people have a David. Most people have a James. So it's confusing in those families because they all named each other the same names, named their children the same names. If I were to have added to this, let me go ahead and pull up the page for Hugh Michael, so that for David Michael, so that we have this to deal with. When I'm looking for somebody, not for a record, but for a person, I use the find. So if I put in David Michael, I'm going to switch this to Hugh because I know what I'm going to find with Hugh. I mean, I think I know what I'm going to find with Hugh. And Hugh's birthplace was in North Carolina. Now, it would like me to kind of click on this as as a default place. And do I remember his birth year? I don't, but maybe it was 1807, but I'm not sure. But I could add his spouse, and his spouse's name was Charity. Okay, and now I can search. And let's see if we find Hugh quickly. We do. We find Hugh, whose mother was Charity and his father was John, married to Sarah. So now I can click on him and then click on him again, and I'm going to have his page. And this way, oh my goodness, different, since I did this last, at least 3 more people have entered him, but have not checked to see if he was already in the system. So that's something I'm going to need to do soon, is to go through and do those. But now I have specific birth information about him. He was born in 1807 in Rowan County, North Carolina. So let's go back to the search. And this time, well, we want to go completely back to search. So if I just search for Hugh Michael, and born in 1807 in North Carolina, then we can check this and see what it finds. And it's going to find a lot of things. Now, this brings up a searching question. And I should have called Diane this week to discuss it with her. She told us last week that she always matches all terms when she's doing a search. And I have always not checked all terms when I was doing a search.
That's on Ancestry. I do that on Ancestry so that I can maneuver those things underneath their names. They don't always do exact search here. I may do it the first time just to see if anything pops up. Because, you know, sometimes if you have a name like John Smith, you want to do an exact search.
My son, when I asked my son today what he would say, if you know information, start out with the direct search and then take out some of the terms because at first, like with John Smith, you might get 10,000 hits. Well, you don't want to sort through 10,000 hits to figure out which one's yours. So if you can add in birth years and birthplaces or spouses and parents, that's going to help you. Now, what information do I not have about Hugh Michael? If I click on type, it is going to list some types. And these types are, in fact, the types that were on that list I showed you at the beginning. Vital records, mainly birth, baptism, and christening, marriage records and death records, census records, and lists of where that residence is, immigration and naturalization, military, probate, or others. So if I wanted to make sure that I knew when Hugh Michael tried to nail down when he died by searching which census does he show up in last, then I would click census. Or maybe I have a different reason why I want to look in his census. I have found Hugh Michael in every census that he was alive in. And so I learned a lot about him by following through those different censuses. Now, here he is in Adair County, Missouri in 1870, in 1850. Now, this is interesting. He's also in Schuyler County, Missouri in 1860 because his house was on the border. So both census takers went to get the census from him. Adair County, Missouri, 1860. That's not him. And these others down here are not him. But it pulled up that many census records for him by clicking census. So that was one way to refine how I searched. Now, another way to refine how I searched for Hugh Michael is if I were to go to this screen, but not follow through with this side like I did at first, but instead go over here to browse all published collections. And I think that pretty much means collections that have been indexed. So if I were to put down Missouri, and if I were to go down here until I get to I'm looking for census records. I don't have census records yet. Maybe if I put US Census, I would get it faster. Particularly since really the censuses are taken by the nation, except sometimes if states wanted to join the union or for other reasons, they would do a census 5 years later. So here I'm going to do United States. United States Census. Okay, there it's showing. Missouri. I'm going to back up again to census. Now this is interesting because it pulled up not just the general census, but it also pulled up the list of people that died in 1850, the list of slaves that existed in Missouri in 1850, and that would be interesting. It would help me find out if Hugh Michael had slaves in 1850, and I was pleased to find out he didn't. But one of the things that I did find out was that, or the reason that was interesting to me is that his wife was the 14th child in a family where her father did have slaves. And so that way, I was pleased to find out that she didn't, and she and her husband didn't. And so, and they sent, I think, 5 sons to fight in the Civil War. So on the north side. That's a cultural, interesting information for me. Now, here's the 1860 census. So now I can put in Hugh Michael. And I can put in that his residence in 1850 was Adair County. And that I'm looking for the year 1860. Well, and that's already up there, isn't it? And I don't know whether or not I need to also add that this is a census record. I don't think I need to because it's already the census records. But let's go ahead and search for a spouse with the name of Charity because, as I said, all the Michaels named their kids after each other. And so now it is going to pull up Hugh Michael and only Hugh Michael, which makes it easier than, that makes it more refined than if I had just done a general search for Hugh Michael and hoped to find him in an 1860 census. And so now I can click on this and it will show me, first of all, it's going to show me the initial things that were indexed. Then it's going to show me everybody in his family that was indexed. And so his oldest son still living at home in 1860 was 26. By looking in the other censuses, I know he had older brothers and younger brothers. Look how many boys they had. 2 daughters out of their whole family. But the thing that I'm always going to want to do is look at the actual record. And so now I can look at the actual record of Hugh Michael in the census and find him and compare it with what's indexed to make sure that they indexed it correctly. And so here they are. And what can I learn about them? The 1850 census was the first census that listed everybody in the family. This is 10 years later. I can learn that his real estate, or that his estate is valued at $2,500. That's interesting to know. And his son, George, also has an estate listed. And so that means that George has been around long enough. He's 26 years old. He already has his own farm. That's interesting to know about George, who's still single. So I can find out a little bit more about the family situation by looking at the census itself. And that was faster than looking with a general search for everybody. Now let's go down here farther and see if it lists other records. It does. And this is a strength of ancestry, but we're finding it sometimes in Family Search now. So it pulled up similar historical records. And so it says, maybe this is him in 1880, in 1850, and in 1870. So that is some low-lying fruit that I'm now going to want to search if I haven't already. So the point here is that when we search under records, we follow through some of the things I've done, and that is going to take us to the records exactly. Now, that is not all that is on Family Search that's searchable. A fraction of what is in the Family History Center Library in Salt Lake has already been indexed. So I can go to genealogies. If I go to genealogies and look up Hugh Michael and genealogies, I will find the programs that the church did in earlier days. And they started out by asking every member of the church to submit their first 3 generations on a pedigree chart with family group sheets that matched the pedigree chart. Then later they changed it and said, please do 4 generations. And that was back in the time period of about 1960, because I was a sophomore at Ricks College when the church asked us to do that. And I fulfilled that request by writing my mother a letter and saying, our home teachers want to see our first 4 generations. Please send it to me. So my mother sent me a nice thick envelope. I saw the nice thick envelope and it arrived. I stuck it in my drawer. The next time the home teachers called, I said, oh yes, I've done it. But when those were submitted to the church, they were put in this thing called genealogies. The pedigree resource file was the most modern of the times that the church asked us to send in our pedigree chart with associated family group sheets. And so that was only about 40 years ago, I think. If we were to come down here and read the different collections, we would find out that they were called Ancestral File, and it looks like they've added some more. But that's what we would find under genealogies. Maybe there's things that your family didn't pass on, but that were listed in those genealogies. And at any rate, it was important that such an important record source was not lost forever, even if it's not used too much. Also, a very, very important thing to search in Family Search is the card catalog. And the card catalog is computerized, the whole huge card catalog. And you can search it by the place of something, the surname, the title, the author, the subject, or the keywords. So I could search Adair County history and find a county history that maybe would list Hugh Michael. I could search surnames and see if there are any books about people who have the surname of Michael. And I'm going to say at the Family History Center. And I'm going to get a list of any that have them. Now, see, I would not have known if I saw a book that said the ancestry of Robert Eldridge is going to tell me about any Michael family, but it lists there that it does. So I can go on through these and see if I find any, like if I found one that said the Michael family of Missouri, then that's one I definitely want to look at. I broke through at least one brick wall by looking for Witham family in Maine. And I found about 5 books that listed the Witham family in Maine. And so I went to the Family History Library and looked in those 5 books, and there was my breakthrough information. So that is a very useful thing to do, to be able to go into the catalog. So think of authors, like if you think that your great aunt wrote a book, look up that. Some of those are not going to be books, but they're going to be things that you're going to want to see. A lot of them are going to be books. So let's look for a book for the Michael family. And see what we get. The Michael genealogy. Who are the children of John and Sarah Michael? There's a different spelling. Here is a British Empire Loyalist family. Goodlove Michael. Oh, the United Empire Loyalists. So not a patriot that in the Revolution, but opposite. Michael families in Indiana. I haven't looked at that. That's one I should look at. These are not original records. These are secondhand records, generally speaking. But if I am having troubles finding out all I want to know about a specific family, I certainly should look these up. Then the wiki is something that is very important in doing research. And this is when we are doing serious research and not so much low-hanging fruits. But to do this, I should either look under, usually by a place. So let's say let's say Adair County, Missouri. And it is going to give me a lesson about doing research in Adair County. And it is going to give me how to find records, who has the records. For example, it's going to say if you want marriage records, go to the county recorder. If you want a divorce record, go to the clerk of the circuit court. If you want probate records, go to the probate clerk. And it's going to give me information that I'm going to need to know if I am searching for in Adair County. Now, again, this is not low-lying fruits. So I'm going to check on my low-lying fruits before I do this. However, if just to get general information about Adair County or Missouri or whatever else area I am researching, I certainly should do this information. I could not properly search for Hugh Michael in Adair County without finding out that Adair County was formed from Macon County. So if it was formed in 1841, well, I think he went there in 1838. So what census am I going to find him in? I'm not going to find him in Adair County. I better look in Macon County. Okay. And here's the list of other kinds of records that are available in Adair County. Now, I was really kind of hoping tonight, until I started trying to figure out how, without making contact with you ahead of time, we could look up your people. But does anybody have anything that they thought of that they'd kind of like to search, that they thought of during the lesson? Okay.
Does
Yes.
anybody have, is there, if somebody else has one first, then we can,
No,
they can
you're
suggest one.
first.
Okay. Okay. So her name is Emma or Emily Rosetta Thomas.
Emily or what?
Emma or Emily?
Emma.
Emma or Emily Thomas.
Rosetta, like the Rosetta Stone, Thomas. And
Okay,
I have
that's-
no idea where the Rosetta came from. It just suddenly showed up. But her last
Okay.
name, her maiden name is Thomas.
Okay. Where was she born? You know?
Burford, Brant County, Ontario, Canada.
Spell them if you would. Is that right?
Okay, hang on. I'm getting there. I'm getting to where I can. Okay, Burford, Burford is the city.
Okay.
Brant, just like it sounds, Brant,
Okay.
Brant County, Ontario, Canada.
Okay. Do you have an idea about when she was born?
1870.
Now, if we
Some
didn't know
people say she was
exactly-
born February 5th.
Okay. Okay, we're just going to put the year because that's all that's on the form as of now. Do you know who her spouse
Okay.
is?
Gotcha. I don't know for certain. Some people say she married a man named Francis Small, but I don't know if that's really true because I can't find any, like a nice trail to that fact.
Then we're going to leave that empty for now. Do you know her father's name?
Okay. Yes, that I've got. Okay. Hang on.
Okay.
Let me back up here. Her father was Sampson William Thomas.
Samson William.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thomas.
Okay. Now let's not restrict it to a certain kind of record right at first. Let's just do this general search and see what we find. Now, and I already forgot, 1870 was her birth year.
Correct.
This tends to look kind of possible for me. Somebody that was born in Ontario in 1869. 1869 is really close to 1870.
It is.
Okay. And Rose could be Rosetta, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Couldn't that be a short way
Yeah.
of saying Rosetta? Okay.
Yeah.
This lists as a spouse Horace Jonathan Hale.
Huh.
And it also, that's a birth certificate and a birth, and then down here is an Emma Rose Thomas with the same spouse and different children. Now, if she's listed with a spouse in a census record, in a birth record, is it her birth record? No. If she's got a spouse, it's a child's birth record. Okay. So this says that the daughter's name was Dolly Beatrice Hale, and that Emma Rose's husband was Horace Jonathan Hale, and that Dolly was born in 1887. Okay, so now let's look at the original record and see what it has to say. And this is kept by the state of Ontario. It's not a church record, it's a government record. Dolly Beatrice Hale, birthday, place of birth, Brantford, Ontario, Canada, in the county of Brant. Same county, different little town. Horace Jonathan Hale, and he lives in Brantford, Ontario, and he is a jeweler. The mother's maiden name is Emma Rose Thomas. This birth certificate is being made under the direction of Bertie Maud Hale Hireman, who lives in Oakland, California. And she says that the parents of the said person are dead, and that she's the oldest sister of that person, and that she is 9 years her senior, and that at the time of her birth, she was present in the house in which she was born, and has a distinct recollection of the occurrence of the birth. Now, why in the world would Dolly want a birth certificate when she maybe didn't have one earlier? Why would she's applying to have a birth certificate made after the fact? Why would somebody want a birth certificate made after the fact?
You get a passport. You can't travel without a passport.
Social Security, taxes. They need to prove their birth year. I don't know if they had Social Security then,
Didn't
but
get around to doing them yet.
oh, this is
And
Canada.
so, what, Diane?
Well, sometimes if they want some kind of a pension, they have to prove their birth.
Yes.
This is Canada. I don't know what kind of pension they have there, but
Well, the sister is in Oakland, California, which makes me wonder if Emma Rose lived in California. Michelle, do you know where Emma Rose lived?
I've lost track of her after 1881. Are you hearing me at all?
I can
'Cause
hear
my
you.
phone
I can hear you
keeps
now.
dropping.
Yes.
Yeah, my phone keeps dropping my Zoom call.
Oh,
I'm not very
dear.
happy with my phone right now. Anyway, the point being that I've lost track of her after 1881. Her family moved to America, to Michigan, but you know, I can't see her with them or see her anywhere near them. So I don't know
Okay.
where she went after 1881.
Okay, but you do know where her sister was in 1940. And the way you know that is this birth record, because it says
Oh.
that their sister is who's helping, is the source of the birth record. And her name was Bertie Maud Hale Hireman, and that she lived in Alameda, California. So you could look up in the 1840 census and look for Bertie Maud and see if just perchance her sister is living with her. And they would have to have gotten the birth certificate filed in Canada because that's where she was born.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
somebody that you're going to want to look for in every census. We tend to use censuses first because they are pretty much universal and they have so much basic information. So you would look in the 1840 census. If you think she's in Michigan, you're going to want to do maybe a general search, choosing, do the general search, but specify that the record that you're looking for is type censuses. And you're going to want to start with 1940, 1930, and keep working backwards. Or maybe do the same for her sister and check and see when her sister moved to the United States, because she and her sister were probably in the same household at the time that they moved to the United States. My husband just reminded me I'm overtime. What we need to realize that when we're doing searches, we don't get discouraged when the first thing we look for doesn't yield who we want, because we have to keep searching. We have to change our search parameters a little bit. We have to look from a slightly different angle. Like in this case, I think it listed the parents in that birth certificate. So do a general search for the parents, then do a specific search for the parents. And and it takes many searches. We also are only going to find people using this kind of a search in records that have been indexed. So we need to remember that there are other records that they're going to be in that have not been indexed yet. And so we could look over that list of records and see, oh, maybe they would be in this place. Maybe, and then we can look in the records themselves instead of in the indexed records. Because tonight we just talked about how to search in indexed records. I hope that helped you a little bit, Michelle, in giving you an idea of where to start.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And call us and we'll answer more questions for you, okay? Now, if nobody else has any questions, we have one quick announcement, and that is that next week is what we call our training meeting. And so we invite anybody that's interested, and specifically anybody that has the calling of a Family History Center or ward consultant. We're also one of the things we're going to talk about next week, I think, is the new website that the church has just released that is specifically about the Family History Library in Salt Lake and the things that we can get specifically from the Family History Library. So I think we'll probably talk about that next week. I haven't told Diane yet that that's what I specifically want to talk about, but that is something that's new, and so I'd kind of like to talk about it. Now, if there's no more comments, it's time for the closing prayer. Jeannie, would you please say our closing prayer? You'll have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to have been gathered tonight to learn about Family Search and to follow through a few names and see how we might use the programs that have been provided for us. We pray that Thou wilt enlighten us as we continue our searching, and that Thou will bless those who have shared their time and expertise with us. We are so grateful for Thy gospel and for the hope we have for our eternal families. We say this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Alice, you look cold.
Anyway, I predict that tonight after midnight, I will see the greatest quarterback that's ever lived in my lifetime will prevail in this game over that youngster that everybody thinks is great.
Doesn't sound to me like you're, well, I can't quite figure out who that is.
So I love Andy Reid. I love the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is my favorite coach forever. He's BYU related.
Oh yes, Andy Reid, yes. But they were not ahead when I came in here.
Okay, well, that's because they're playing Brady. What's his name? Brady. And he is the greatest football player, quarterback I've been watching him 20 years. And this is what, his 10th showing up. He's
something
45
like
years old, 44 years old. And
almost 20 years older than the Chiefs quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will, that's my prediction.
Why won't you know till midnight?
What? Because
not watching it till then.
It's the Sabbath
Oh,
day.
you don't watch television on Sunday?
Well, I try not to, especially where I get really excited. I'm smart enough to record a ball game and find out who won and then watch it.
I see.
Otherwise,
well, if I was at home, I wouldn't be watching it, but I'm at my son's house, and so I am watching it.
Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, I got that information for you for the military dude that I'm looking for. So
okay.
Can I send that to you by chat or email?
By text or email.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Another
Good to
great,
see you.
another great.
Alice, I
Well,
can't stay and talk because we're having a meeting.
Text.
Good to see you, though.
Okay. You know, I was gonna have you're in that search historical records.
Okay.
Are you still in that? So that's probably where I could.
This is the basic search screen that I'm at.
Okay, yeah, that's, I need to go to, well, I need to go to the one, I guess I used to try that card catalog all the time for San Luis Potosi in Mexico, but I haven't looked for a long time.
Well, one way is to look at the card catalog. The other way is to look at,
Yeah, you
go to the
showed-
record screen and choose the specific collections. So type in the place. What's the name of the place again?
San Luis, SANLUIS, LUIS.
L-U, no O.
No, LU, no O,
No O in Louise.
LUIS, Potosi, POTSOI.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. San Luis Potosi.
Now see, it pulled up the Catholic Church records and the civil registration records.
Right.
And
Yeah,
whoops, I lost them.
well, it says miscellaneous, but I've looked, I'm familiar with those, but so that's all. Check.
Just those three, okay?
Yeah, what is, okay, never mind. That's,
You've been in the catalog, it sounds like though, John, right?
what?
You've been in the catalog for that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I found that
So-
one book in, and some of these records are indexed, but the indexing doesn't go past the late 1800s.
Okay, so these here are the only ones that have been indexed. So if you're not looking in these time frames, then you're going to need to go to the card catalog.
Yeah.
Now, anybody that's just about the records that are in the card catalog, with the exception of books, are nearly always available for you to search, but you search them the old-fashioned way. Instead of doing a microfilm reader and cranking page by page, you do an arrow by arrow on the page on the computer screen. And so it can be a laborious process. And you have to kind of try to drill down to figure out where to start your page by page
Okay.
searching. But those have been filmed usually, but not indexed. But
Right.
you don't have to go to the Family History Center and crank the microfilm reader.
Right, okay. Thank
Now, is Richard coming, or Richard and Heather coming?